It still is a legal issue, though, and if enough of us in the state government said that the governor would order the troops home, and you did order them home, then it would go to the Supreme Court, and we could argue the issue on a national level.
But you have to deal with Washington, though. Good luck with Washington. No, we need the political will of the people. We need to become our own country. Then we can definitely have them home, and they'll come home to protect our borders, protect our people.
But we have this, right now the American gross national product is $13 trillion. So the numbers you mentioned still are not getting close to 13 trillion. So there's a period of time where things are going to continue as they are. And during that period of time, we can have health insurance. If, for instance, we were all elected in November, with the help of people like the President of the Senate, Peter Schindlin, we could introduce single-payer health insurance.
But you got to get approval from Washington.
But Bernie can get that for us.
Well, good luck.
Well, he may or he may not get it.
75% of the people against the war were still in the wars.
We have a real chance of getting it.
They just cut spending, educational spending. They spent $35 million more, or billion more added to the Defense Department budget, and they cut education spending. Martin Luther King said every time, if you spend more money on defense year after year and not on social uplifting programs, you're approaching spiritual death. The United States government is approaching spiritual death.
Robin?
Yeah, let me just frame the question another way. In other words, it seems to me the difference between the progressives and the Free Vermont movement is that the progressives believe in reforming the government, and you all believe in removing consent from the government, just not giving your consent and not giving your money. And so one of my questions is, what I've heard is that for every dollar we send in taxes to the federal government, Vermont gets $1.08 back. In other words, we get more money back than we send. But it's not that extreme. I mean, every state is different, but in this state, it's just we get a little more back for the dollar we send. So is that accurate? And what do you make of that?
That's not accurate because they fail to take a lot of things into account, and one of them is the fact that we are being burdened with a debt. And when you take into account that right now, I think every Vermonter owes $165,000 as part of the national debt, and you add that in, see, the federal government is spending money they don't have. So some of the money they're giving us back, they don't have. So a large portion of that, 25%, is just being added to our bill.
But they're printing money like it's going out of style.
Well, they're printing money. So somebody at UVM also did a study about this and said, in actuality, when you take these other things into consideration, we're really only getting 75 cents back because some of the money is just being added to our debt. They don't have the money that they're giving us. Just like they don't have the money they're giving everybody. They're just adding it onto the ticket, and they have no concept of how they're ever going to repay it. And it is all about money. We went the other night to this debate, and all that's talked about is money. Money, every subject, whether it's the economy, the environment, education, healthcare, it's all money. There's no money for any of these programs. But the two businesses that have benefited or reaped windfall profits the last 10 years, while everyone else has struggled, have been Wall Street and the military-industrial complex. That's where the money's going, and that's what's building our debt. Okay, that's where the debt is. And so all the things that we really want, Vermonters really want, the things I named, you know, education, a clean environment, healthcare, clean energy, all that stuff is being squandered on these other things, which are adding to the coffers of these large corporations and putting everybody else into poverty. And we're not getting the programs, and they're getting their windfall profits, and that's the problem. It's priorities. And the Democrats and Republicans, as Dennis would say, believe that this system can be fixed. I would agree with that if any slight bit of movement had happened in the last 10 or 20 years to stop this direction, but it hasn't. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, and that's why I kind of joined, because I don't believe you can ever defeat this. There's too much power and too much money, and so the only way is to do what the Soviet republics did and these other countries, to say, you know what, we just don't we don't buy into your program anymore. Your values aren't our values. What you're spending money on, we don't think you should be spending money on. And so you go have fun with your country, and we're going to start something here that we think that's going to be more beneficial to the people. People are going to be happier, they're going to be healthier, they're going to be more educated, which the government really doesn't want, because if they were healthier and more educated, then they wouldn't be putting up with what's going on.
Well, let me just give you an example of the sort of bipolar thinking that I have, and I think a lot of other people have, who are straddling the fence between the progressives and the secessionists. My organization, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, got a grant to question corporate personhood, and that was, as everyone knows, the Supreme Court had a decision in Citizens United against the Federal Election Commission that allows corporations to put unlimited funds into the electoral process to whoever. So have you guys gotten any money yet? No. And so we're working on that issue, and yet, part of it is to amend the Constitution, to amend the 14th Amendment, and to make it clear that that does not apply to corporations, that applies to one person, one vote, and that corporations are not people. But on the other hand, if I were a true blue secessionist, I wouldn't be worried about, I wouldn't be wasting my time at thinking that we can either change the Constitution in a progressive way, or that the Constitution is a part of the empire, and that's not our issue. We want to become an independent republic and not waste our time on those issues anymore. So it's hard for me to really implement what I think of as the values of moving towards truly seceding from the Union. We can become involved in the local VOR movement. We can become involved in transition towns, but until we refuse to send our money to Washington, I think we're not really taking a significant step, and that's what we have to get the courage to do.
But in the process, that means you have to stop voting for Democrats, Republicans, and progressives and start voting for the independent candidates, the ones who are open secessionists, the ones that want to really bring about change. That is the key to it. When people finally learn or discover or wake up to the fact that the money's gone, that the programs are going to start to get cut in Vermont, if they really want to preserve the way Vermont is now, we are the people who are willing to bring that about and decentralize it and give the power back to the people where it belongs. The Democrats and Republicans are clueless.
We have 650,000 people, and supposedly the land can only support 100,000. I mean, in terms of if we were to rely on local agriculture.
Okay, wait. No, I get it. I'm not. I have to maybe take argument with that. Now, if Switzerland can produce 2/3 of their food, and they feed 6 million people in the Swiss Alps, 650,000 people, I think we can at least produce 2/3 of our food here. But it's not about that. We're still going to trade with people. We're not going to isolate ourselves. We're still going to be able to trade with people and trade with the rest of the world. I mean, Japan is an independent republic. They import 100% of their oil and 98% of their food, but they still determine their own future about where they want to go. So we can still import what we need until we actually reach those levels. And I think it's actually that we could actually produce 2/3 of our food in Vermont for our people. I mean, we might not be able to get certain things, but we're going to be able to. We're not going to be isolationists. We'll still be able to get what we need, and as long as peak oil and it's not too expensive, that's where the challenge is. But really, that's not. We can still trade and be friends with people and have a foreign policy of non-intervention and be our own country and do our own thing and really get progressive in that way of thinking, real progressive.
Well, excuse me for taking over the question here for a few moments. One other question, when I, as a woman, look at what the federal government has done in terms of, say, Roe versus Wade to make abortion legal, and in Brown versus the Department of education, in terms of getting rid of discrimination. I mean, the federal government has done very progressive things. Now, would those two issues be re-voted in the state legislature here? In other words, those progressive gains for people of color and women, would those be assured to continue under under the Republic of Vermont?
I don't see why they wouldn't. I think Vermont's very progressive and leading in that fact. In our state constitution, our Vermont Constitution is more radical than the U.S. Constitution when it comes to civil liberties for people.